The soft buzz of a ceiling fan hums in the dim light of a quiet bank. The old man, his hair thin and graying, waits patiently at the counter, clutching a faded military ID. He's been here before, but this time, something feels different. He places the card on the counter, his hands trembling just slightly, not from age, but from something deeper, something he's carried for years. The bank teller, young and unaware, eyes the ID with skepticism. She raises an eyebrow, a subtle, almost imperceptible glance at her screen. Then, without a word, she scans the ID and, with a slight frown, asks, "Are you really a veteran?" The silence between them grows thick. The old man doesn't reply. His eyes remain calm, unreadable, though his lips tighten. Why doesn't he speak? What's keeping him from explaining? The teller pauses, glancing at the others in line, her judgment clear in her expression. And still, he says nothing. He just waits. Who is this man, really? And why does he endure this, day after day? Not every hero has a monument. Some heroes only need to be mentioned just once, and quietly, before they're forgotten again. If you understand that, you're in the right place. Subscribe to American Quiet Courage. The moment lingers in the air like an unfinished sentence. The old man turns, slowly, without a word. His shoes scrape gently against the floor as he steps out into the morning light. There's no anger in his movements, just a quiet resignation, as if this had happened before too many times to count. Outside, the world continues, oblivious. The sun is just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the pavement. The cars pass, honking occasionally, but the old man doesn't notice. His gaze is fixed ahead, somewhere beyond the rush of life, somewhere deep inside his memories. He doesn't need to explain himself. His silence speaks volumes. As he walks down the street, the weight of the world seems to press down on him. Not the world that others see, the bustling, busy world, but the one that he carries with him, silent, unseen. The memories of a life lived in service, the quiet victories, the sacrifices made long ago. But in this moment, there's no recognition, no applause. Just the faint hum of a distant car engine, the steady rhythm of his steps, and a deep, enduring silence. He steps outside, the door clicking shut softly behind him. The cool morning air greets him with a gentle breeze, brushing through his thinning hair. He doesn't hurry. His pace is deliberate, each step measured, as if he's used to waiting, used to being overlooked. The street is quiet, save for the distant hum of cars and the occasional bark of a dog. The world doesn't stop for him, and he doesn't expect it to. He walks down the sidewalk, his shoulders slightly hunched, but not out of weakness, more from the weight of years, the kind that no one else sees. He passes the old diner on the corner, the one he's been going to for years. The sign outside flickers, a faded reminder of better days. He doesn't stop. Inside, the chatter of early risers fills the air, the clink of coffee mugs and silverware. But he doesn't hear it. His focus is straight ahead, his eyes distant, almost lost in thought. A woman walks by him, her purse clutched tightly in her hand. She glances at him briefly, but quickly looks away. He's used to that. He's used to being invisible. And yet, for a moment, there's a flicker, something in his eyes, something deeper than just the quiet resignation. It's there for the briefest second, but then it's gone. His hands are still, his fingers resting at his sides, almost as if waiting for something, waiting for someone to finally see him for who he really is. But in the silence of the street, he keeps walking. Raymond Ray Callahan continues walking, his feet moving steadily but slowly as the weight of the moment settles deeper into his chest. The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows on the pavement. The air is cooler now, and his steps are softer, almost as if the world itself is quieter in these moments. He passes the park, the same one he has walked past 100 times, and his eyes linger on the worn bench where he has sat so many mornings. It's an old bench, cracked and faded from years of sun and rain, just like him. He often comes here to think, to breathe in the quiet and leave the noise of the world behind. But today, the quiet feels different. It's not comforting like it usually is. Instead, it feels heavy. The weight of unspoken words. The weight of a truth he has carried for far too long without ever letting it see the light of day. Raymond stops at the edge of the park and looks back down the street. His eyes are distant, unfocused. He doesn't look at anything in particular, just staring, lost in thought, but the question from earlier still echoes in his mind. Are you a veteran? The question was simple enough. But there's something about it that stirs something deep inside him. A memory, a feeling, maybe even an anger he's never allowed himself to express. The question isn't new, not by any means. He's heard it before. Over the years, more times than he can count. But today, something about it feels different. It feels louder. Why didn't he answer? The man who asked wasn't rude, wasn't unkind, but his words still cut through Ray's silence like a knife. Ray had been silent because he had always chosen to be. He had chosen the silence long ago. It was safer that way. Less painful. Less complicated. But now, standing here, the weight of that silence feels heavier than it ever has before. It's as if, for the first time, it's no longer enough. Raymond looks up toward the horizon, taking in the street, the buildings, the people walking by. They don't see him. They never do. He's just another face in the crowd, just another shadow against the backdrop of the city. But he's tired of being that shadow. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of the question that keeps lingering in his mind, when will they see me for who I really am? He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the cool evening air. His fingers twitch at his sides, and for the first time in what feels like a long time, he considers breaking the silence. The thought doesn't come easy. But it's there. Quiet, but insistent. Raymond slowly turns and walks back toward the park, each step heavier than the last. Today, he's ready to speak. Just a little. Maybe not for anyone else, but for himself. He doesn't know what the words will be yet, but he's tired of waiting for someone else to ask. It's his turn to answer. Raymond Ray Callahan continues his slow, deliberate walk through the streets. The world seems to move around him, unaware, but for Ray, every step feels more significant now. The park, the bench, the questions, all of them swirl in his mind as the evening sky deepens into twilight. The weight of his silence grows heavier with each step. He reaches the same park he's passed countless times, the one with the worn bench he often sits on to escape the noise of life. This time, though, something is different. As he approaches, he sees a man standing near the bench. It's a stranger, someone he hasn't seen before. The man is in his late 40s, dressed casually, but there's something about him that makes Ray stop in his tracks. The man doesn't notice Ray immediately. He's looking down at his phone, tapping away, as if caught up in something important. But Ray doesn't move, his gaze fixed on the man. For a moment, Ray hesitates. Should he keep walking? Should he turn and leave like he always does? But then, the man looks up, his eyes catching Ray's. There's a moment of stillness between them, as if the world has paused. The man's face softens slightly, and without saying a word, he takes a step toward Ray. "Excuse me," the man says, his voice calm but firm. "Are you a veteran?" The question is simple, yet it strikes Ray with an intensity he wasn't prepared for. He feels his chest tighten, his breath catching in his throat. This isn't the first time someone has asked him this question, but today, something about it feels different. The way the man is looking at him, waiting for an answer. It's almost like the question isn't just about Ray's past, it's about who he is, right now. Ray's fingers twitch at his sides, and he feels the familiar urge to retreat into his silence. But for some reason, this time is different. This time, he doesn't want to hide. He doesn't want to be invisible anymore. He takes a deep breath, his gaze never leaving the man's eyes. And for a moment, Ray feels something he hasn't felt in a long time, a flicker of pride, buried deep under layers of years, of silence, of waiting. He opens his mouth to speak, and the words come slowly, like they're being drawn from the very core of him, reluctant but insistent. "Yes," Ray says, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it's enough." The man nods, as if he expected nothing less. There's no grand gesture, no dramatic reveal. Just the quiet confirmation of a truth Ray has carried with him for so long, a truth that has never been fully acknowledged by anyone until now. The silence between them doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels like it's been broken, just a little. And for the first time, Ray feels something he hasn't in years, the courage to be seen. The man doesn't say anything else. He simply nods again and walks away, his footsteps fading into the distance. Ray watches him go, standing there for a long moment, taking it all in. For a brief instant, he wonders if that's all it takes, a simple acknowledgement, a quiet answer. Maybe that's all he needs to finally step out of the silence. And maybe, just maybe, he doesn't have to walk this path alone anymore. Raymond Ray Callahan stands at the corner of the street, his eyes lost in the quiet chaos of the world around him. The city hums softly in the distance, but here, in this moment, everything feels still. The sun has nearly set, leaving only a soft glow that stretches across the empty sidewalks. Ray doesn't move, not yet. He's not sure where he's going, or what to do with the quiet inside him. His fingers twitch at his sides, restless, as if something inside him wants to break free, but he holds it back. He's always been good at holding things in, good at letting the silence fill the space, keeping the world at arm's length. But today, the silence feels suffocating, like a heavy coat draped over his shoulders that he can no longer bear. The question still lingers in his mind, are you a veteran? It's a question he's been asked before, of course. But this time, something about it is different. The weight of it feels heavier. Maybe it's the way the man looked at him. Or maybe it's the way he stood there, waiting for Ray to answer, as if his answer could somehow change everything. Ray glances around, as if searching for something, but there's nothing to see, just the familiar streets, the quiet hum of the city. He takes a deep breath, the cool evening air filling his lungs. His chest tightens, not from fear, but from the weight of a truth he's carried with him for so long, a truth that's never been spoken aloud. He knows the truth. He's always known it. But knowing it and saying it are two different things. The silence has been his shield, his armor. But now, the silence feels like a cage, trapping him in a world that's moving on without him. Ray stands there for a long moment, just breathing, letting the weight of the decision settle over him. He could keep walking, keep hiding behind the silence, and no one would ever know the truth. He could fade into the background, as he always has. But for some reason, today, that doesn't feel like an option anymore. He turns, slowly, his eyes scanning the street, the park in the distance. The bench is empty now, just like it always is. He's been here before, but today, it feels different. He takes another deep breath, the sound of his breath breaking the stillness around him. He can't stay here, not in this moment, not with this silence pressing down on him. Ray takes a step forward, then another. His heart beats faster, but not out of fear. It's something else. It's the quiet shift inside him, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, he's ready to let the silence go. The truth is still there, waiting to be spoken, but for the first time, he feels like he might finally be able to speak it. He doesn't know how it will feel. He doesn't know what will happen after. But for the first time in a long time, he's ready to step out of the silence. With each step, the weight on his shoulders lightens, just a little. It's not a big change, not a grand gesture, but it's something. And maybe, for Ray, that's enough for now. One small step forward, one small decision to no longer hide. And with that, he keeps walking, the world around him slowly shifting, just a little, as he begins to leave the silence behind. Raymond Ray Callahan walks with a new sense of purpose now, his steps steady but slow, as if the weight of the day is finally starting to lift. The evening is growing darker, but the streetlights flicker on, casting long shadows across the pavement. Ray doesn't mind the darkness. It's something he's become familiar with, something that has always been a part of him. But tonight, the darkness feels different, less like a burden and more like a companion. He reaches the park again, the familiar place where he's spent countless hours over the years. The old bench still stands in its usual spot, the wood worn and weathered, much like him. He hesitates for a moment before walking over and sitting down. The silence here is comforting, but there's something else now, a sense of possibility that wasn't there before. Ray rests his hands on his lap, looking out at the empty space in front of him. He feels the weight of the decision he's made, but it's not a burden. It's a quiet kind of relief, the kind that comes with acknowledging something that has been hidden for far too long. For years, Ray has kept his story to himself. He's lived in the silence, carried it with him like a shield, and it has protected him. But now, the silence no longer feels like a shield. It feels like a prison, and he's finally ready to leave it behind. As he sits there, the quiet stretches out around him, but it's not uncomfortable. It's not the same silence that once felt like a weight pressing down on his chest. It's different now, softer. The world around him continues on, unaware of the shift that has taken place within him. People walk by, some glance his way, but most are lost in their own world. For the first time in a long while, Ray doesn't mind being seen. He's not hiding anymore. He's not running from the truth he's carried for so long. It doesn't matter if the world understands him or not. What matters is that, in this moment, he finally understands himself. Ray looks up at the stars beginning to twinkle in the sky. They're faint, distant, but they're there, and for the first time in years, he feels a small spark of hope. The past is still there, it always will be, but it no longer has the power to define him. Tonight, he feels like he can start again, like he can finally take that first step towards something new. The man who asked if he was a veteran is still in his mind, but Ray's answer has already been given. He doesn't need to speak it aloud again. He doesn't need anyone else to validate it. He knows who he is now. And for the first time, he's ready to live that truth. Ray stands up from the bench, his legs feeling lighter than before. He takes a deep breath, the cool air filling his lungs. He doesn't know what tomorrow will bring, but for the first time in a long time, he's ready to find out. He starts walking again, the night stretching out ahead of him, full of possibility. The silence is still there, but it's no longer oppressive. It's a part of him now, just like everything else. And as he walks, Ray feels something he hasn't felt in years, the freedom to be himself, to embrace the truth, to take the next step without fear. Tonight, he begins again. Raymond Ray Callahan walks down the street, his hands buried deep in his coat pockets. The evening air is cool, but there's a warmth building inside him, something he hasn't felt in a long time. His footsteps are steady, each one a quiet affirmation, as if he's marking his presence in a world that has long since ignored him. The city hums around him, a constant rhythm of life, but the sounds are distant. It's the stillness he feels within that stands out. For years, he's moved through the world with a quiet strength, a strength that's carried him through things most people could never imagine. But tonight, it feels like that strength has taken on a different form. He passes a small diner, the warm glow of its light spilling out onto the sidewalk. Through the window, he sees a group of people laughing, sharing a meal, oblivious to the world outside. They're carefree, happy in a way that feels foreign to Ray. He stops for a moment, watching them, and something stirs deep within him. The world keeps turning, but for him, the laughter feels distant. The happiness of others seems so far removed from the quiet he's lived in for so long. Ray takes a deep breath and shifts his gaze. He knows he's not like them. He's never been like them. He's been shaped by years of sacrifice, by things he's never spoken about. His silence has been his shield, his way of protecting himself from a world that doesn't always understand the price he's paid. But tonight, that silence feels different. It's not the comforting silence he's always known, it's heavier now. It carries the weight of everything he's kept hidden, everything he's carried alone. He spent so many years thinking that silence was the only way to stay strong, to survive. But now, for the first time, he wonders if it's time to lay that down. The people inside the diner will never know what he's been through, never understand the quiet pain he's carried. But he doesn't need them to. The strength he's had all these years, the silent courage, it's enough. He's walked through so many battles, some he won, others he lost, but the greatest victory, the one that has taken him this far, has always been in the quiet moments. The moments when he chose to keep going, even when no one saw him. Ray takes one last look at the diner, then turns away. He doesn't need to explain himself to anyone. The sacrifices he's made, the things he's lost, they're his alone. And in the quiet of this evening, he realizes something: his silence was never a weakness. It was his strength. As he walks away, his heart is lighter, not because the weight has lifted, but because he's finally at peace with it. The world may never understand him, but for the first time, he's no longer asking for that. He walks forward, steady and sure, knowing that the strength he's carried all these years will continue to guide him. Raymond Ray Callahan stands at the edge of the small park, the dimming light of the evening casting long shadows across the grass. He's been here before, many times, but tonight feels different. Tonight, the weight he's carried for so long, the silence, the sacrifices, seems just a little easier to bear. It's not that the weight has disappeared, it's that he's no longer afraid of it. He steps forward, his shoes pressing softly against the grass. The world continues around him, unaware, but Ray doesn't mind. For the first time, he's no longer trying to blend into the background, to be invisible. He's standing here, in the quiet, and it feels like a quiet declaration. He looks up at the sky. The stars are just beginning to appear, faint but steady. They're small, distant, but they're there, just like him. And for the first time in years, Ray feels like he belongs in the world again, not as a shadow, not as someone trying to hide, but as himself. He doesn't need anyone else to see him. He doesn't need their approval, their recognition. The light he carries inside, the strength he's always had, is enough. With one final, steady breath, Ray turns and begins to walk forward. Each step is sure, each step is his own. The world may not understand him, but that no longer matters. Tonight, he steps into the light, ready to live his truth. Raymond Ray Callahan's journey teaches us a powerful lesson about the strength found in silence and the courage it takes to live our truth. For years, Ray lived in the shadows, his sacrifices and quiet dignity unnoticed by most. He carried a heavy burden, not of weakness, but of the strength to endure without recognition. Yet, as his journey unfolds, he learns that true strength isn't just in bearing the weight of the world silently, but in allowing ourselves to be seen. When Ray steps into the light, he does so not for validation, but for himself, proclaiming that his worth is not defined by others' recognition. This story reminds us that we all have our own battles, our own silent sacrifices, and at some point, we must choose to step into the light, to be seen for who we truly are, and to live authentically. The courage to embrace our truth is the truest form of strength. What is it that you've been carrying in silence, waiting to speak out? Are you ready to step into the light, just as Ray did? If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to American Quiet Courage for more powerful stories of strength, courage, and quiet heroism.